It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or advanced hard surface modeler, whether you're using Blender, plasticity, schmasticity, I don't care what it is, we all have the same issue, right? And the issue is sitting down, opening software, and trying to model something from scratch that's your own idea. And everyone, to a certain degree, struggles with this, with the same thing. So in this video, what I want to do, I want to take this really cool concept mech design, which I doodled recently in plasticity, and I want to show you all the stages of modeling and how it was designed, my thinking process, the how and why behind it, because that's the only way to, to really understand how it all works, and maybe it's gonna, help you out on your journey, okay? And just low-key, I'm thinking about making this into a course because I really like this mech, it's kind of cool. And this could be a new plasticity course, so, if I see a lot of positive reactions to it, let me know what you think. If a lot of people like it, I just might go ahead and do that because it was a lot of fun. And also a lot of challenge, which is what we live for, right? And lastly, I want to talk about a very specific case. One of the coaching members, Judith, she's a professional 2D artist and she's switching to 3D and she's building a portfolio, and she was working on a massive spaceship, and she ran into a very, very interesting issue that's very common, and we're going to talk about it in this video as well. So let's get started. All right, so let's nuke this mech because it's a final thing. And first, before we do anything, I want to show you the very concept idea that kind of inspired this mech in the first place. And it's a mech design I found ages ago, and I really, really like it. And it's this one. It's just so beautiful, so simple, so beautiful. It's so powerful. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to create kind of like a chamfery, the headpiece, the main chassis, right? With massive planar shifts and kind of like angular and, sort of looking like it was chiseled out of a stone, right? There's a lot of chamfers in here on these guns as well. And by the way, the guns, the overall gun shape actually inspired the guns on my mech as well. So this was actually the only inspiration I had other than, my own ideas and sort of looking at the shape I was developing and kind of interacting with it, because it's really important, okay? When you model something, you're going to see shapes being created, and you need to start learning how to interact with these shapes and how to evolve them. Okay, that's how you're gonna develop your intuition as an artist and visual library as well. Okay, so let's just go back here, and I'm gonna show you the very first save from plasticity. There's this one, and let me tell you, I spent probably 30 minutes doodling with this head. I'm not even kidding. I know it's a simple shape, but I just simply was fiddling with it until I got something I really liked, right? So I was going back and forth and adding elements, removing elements, changing these chamfers, playing with them, cutting them, moving them, rotating them, just playing around, adding these, removing these, and, they just disappeared later on. I completely changed my mind. I went, with like a full kind of a top body, but again, that was the very initial idea. But the cabin, you see, stayed, and it's actually, if you look at this cabin from this angle, it kind of resembles, this kind of idea, right? So again, that was the very primary kind of a, bulb moment. I was like, oh shit, that's pretty cool. That's what I want to go with, right? Now, this cabin is so important because it's going to define the entire mech. That's why blockouts and the initial steps are so crucial, because they're going to define the whole fucking thing, right? So don't slack on the job. Take your time. I think the blockout itself took me like easily 2 hours. I was literally fiddling all the time with things, moving them, arranging them, moving legs, removing legs, changing thighs, moving shins, cutting them, the lot. So eventually I arrived at this very basic blockout, right? That was the blockout I ended up with. And honestly, the thighs are very similar to the head. It's kind of a similar idea. They are their shape and the way they're cut changed later on, because if you look at the final mech, the cuts on the legs are different. The same with the bottom. They different. I actually removed them and I rebuilt them from scratch. So these, the shins here are gone. I mean, whatever it's called. the bottom part of the legs. That was replaced, but the state they were just cut later on. I know, but the basic shape of the mech and the balance of the mech, which is really important, except for the guns, never changed. Okay, so if you look at the balance of this mech, is beautifully balanced. It's kind of like a triangle going in. You can see that the center weight is, you know, falling on the feet. And if you look from any angle, right, this thing looks, you know, looks ready to go, right? Any angle. And that's really important. You want to rotate your model a lot when you're modeling to make sure that any angle, you know, feels balanced and makes sense, okay? Now, I didn't like the guns. The guns were actually inspired by this mech. And I was thinking I might go with something like this, although vertically, not horizontally. But then I thought, I mean, I could have gone with this and maybe it would work, but you know, I changed my mind, and I actually changed my mind with the guns 3 times. So this is the first idea, and then I had a different idea. So let's go to the blockout number 2 or 3, and you see that's a different iteration of the guns. So I was playing with the guns, and in addition, I added the top, and I also added the bridges. Changed them a little bit and brought these guns closer. You see, they were really far away in the previous mech, like here, right? They're really, where is it? Not this one. It was this one, right? Yeah, see, they're far away. They were too far, and I thought, okay, if it's gonna be a recon mech, you know, really fast one, needs to be agile. And if you have parts of your mech or whatever far away from the design, it's gonna be also more difficult to turn left, right, etc. Right? So it's gonna lose the agility. So I brought the guns closer together, and then we have another stage of the blockout when I actually went ahead and changed the gun idea to horizontal and kind of went deeper into the design. And also, this is actually kind of, you know, a bit more deeper into the design because we have some stuff on the chassis. We have some cuts here and there. We have the cabin fleshed out, although cabin has nothing inside yet; it's empty. And we get these cuts here on the neck, this one, and this one on the back. That the tailbone is cut, and we got some bevels going on to, you know, to get some highlights going on. So I was kind of getting the feel of the cabin, and I thought, okay, this is something I really like. Now I can move on to the legs. So now I was kind of cutting all these massive panels here with primary cuts to flesh out, you know, again, the cockpit, the bottom line of the neck here and the back, and also the top, right? And then I was moving down to the thighs and legs, right? So next, next iteration is gonna be not this one. I think it's gonna be this one. Oh, that's really deep inside, but you know what I mean. So now I moved into the legs and split the thighs. So it's kind of similar to this idea here, right? You know, on the legs, and I repeated this one here as well. These were completely changed, and then we have different shape of the bottom part of the feet, and feet were remodeled, but I remodeled them again later on because I didn't think this fit with the design. They were also quite thin, and you know, didn't like them. This one also changed later on. I didn't like it. It kind of looks a little bit from a different story. So when you have this blockout done, right, it's really important to listen to your primary shape. So when you look at the shapes and they're really balanced, then you can start seeing sub-shapes in these shapes, right? This is how you're going to be able to flesh out all these cuts and separations, because the blockout will tell you, and it's going to come with experience. You have to experiment a lot, you know, trial and error, and see what works, what doesn't, and that's the key. Now, really important thing to realize, it's the angles, okay? If you need help fixing your hard surface modeling issues fast, with one-to-one support, weekly coaching calls, and full access to all of our Blender and plasticity courses, then keep watching. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You cannot model anything without a tutorial. Your shading, bevels and booleans break, and no matter how many tutorials you watch, you are not improving. If this is you, then join our Hard Surface Academy. You get lifetime access to all of our courses, 6 months of private one-to-one support with Josh and I, plus weekly coaching calls where we fix your issues in real time. If you want personal guidance and modeling workflow that actually works, click the link below and learn more about the program. It's the echoing of angles. So if I run a line here along this one, right? You see that this line is gonna be echoed in here, in here, in here, right? And it's very close, but not really. But these major cuts here and this one on the back, they're all the same angle, right? And then we have the other angle, which is going this way. So if I move this line here, you can see that this angle gonna be repeated here, right? And also here. So there's a lot of echoing going on, and use echoing of angles and shapes because it's going to kind of re-emphasize and empower your design. So for instance, the leg, this thigh here is kind of similar to the main cockpit, right? To this whole main structure in the top. And this one also kind of resembles this one, right? So they kind of, work with one another in terms of planar shifts, angles, balance, etc., right? Another really important thing is to look at your design from every single angle and make sure that from every angle it looks balanced and makes sense. There's clearance for all these mechanical elements, etc. And all these pistons can actually work, fold into the chassis or into the legs, and there's space for them, right? So that's really important. Yeah, so that was kind of, a stage going deeper into adding details and secondary detail to my mech, cutting all these panels, etc., and fleshing out the joints and all that. So, that was a next stage. Then we have this stage where I actually changed the feet. You see, that's a third iteration of feet. And I thought that this is going to look better from the front when the feet kind of go outwards, just like the guns. It's going to give him, more stance, and it's going to look more powerful. And because the legs are quite thick, I thought this is going to look better. In fact, props to Razer, because when I was streaming this, and Razer said, dude, I think these feet are a little bit too thin. Maybe you should make them a bit thicker. And I decided to make the feet thicker, and they look way better. So, cheers, Razer, good tip. But anyway, in fact, this whole mech was actually streamed on our Discord. So if you missed it, you missed it. But anyway, obviously in parts because it took several days, right? I got work to do, so it was just for fun. But like I said, I might make it into a course, so let me know, because I'm tempted. I really like mechs, and this one is kind of cool, especially that has a fully fledged, interior. Well, not in this stage, but anyway. So going back, like I said, these shapes going to kind of tell you that something is not working, and that's what happened to the feet, right? They just weren't working for me, so I changed them. This is the inspiration I took for the feet, and I thought, okay, this kind of a shape looks nice. I think I might go with that. And again, I changed the rest, but the shape alone was taken from this. So you see how you think? You look at other mechs, you look at other designs, and you think, okay, what would go with my mech? Okay, this could go with my mech, but I want to do it differently. And that's how you grow, okay? That's how you grow as a designer. That's how you grow as an artist. That's the only way to do it, okay? Take an inspiration, make it your own, okay? And every time you do that, you grow. Do you see what I mean? So that's the key. So these three, well, this one really wasn't very useful because I actually abandoned this. But these two mechs were the major inspiration for the design, okay? And the rest was just doodled. I was playing off of shapes and off of what I was seeing in the window here in the plasticity. And after I cut something, I was like, do I like it? I don't. I was recutting stuff. And it took a really long time to come up with the final design, okay? So that's the next stage. And then we have, I think, next one's gonna be when I started to, well, I added more details. You can see that there are details here in the front, all these cuts, these kind of, dishes here, whatever that is, breaking plates, whatever. Some capacitors in the back, some pipes. And then also at the end, I'm gonna be cutting this neck here. This one is still not changed. I can see it's old. There are the panels here on the top. So that was done. This element here, and these cuts here in the back, and that thing in the bottom. So there was new elements added, and details on the side, So that's what I was doing, and I think in the next one I'm gonna be working on the interior. So here I think we start working on an interior already. So there you go, and that's where we start working on the interior here. So I created some pipes in the back and started working on these modules here in corners to kind of make this cabin feel a bit tighter and not as roomy, right? And then I built the seat and the rest, okay? And then I added some more details, so you're gonna see in the last file. So if I load this one in, you will see that we're gonna have the final detail. When I finish the cabin, I went around the mech and I added these, so it kind of looks like this head could move back and forth. I added this detail here, then I think I might have added some more stuff on like details here on the top and these, and then I changed the side panels and added the cameras on both sides, so the guy can look forward, but also has the cameras on, that can look to the sides and also to the back, because you see there's a clearance to the back, right? So that was that, and obviously the cabin was finished. So if you look inside, there's a fully finished cabin with the joysticks and all the details, so there you go. It's a lot of fun. So that's that, right? And the funny thing is that when you get the initial blockout done, it gets really easy towards the end, right? Really easy. Like, it gets actually relaxing, because your details or the, well, first the major cuts and the lines and the angles will literally tell you where you want to place the details. Because if you now, what I want to tell you is, funny thing, it's a paradox, that the deeper you go in the design, the easier it gets, okay? The most difficult part is the blockout, and you should spend a lot of time on the blockout and the concept phase, okay? A lot. Because the better the blockout, the more natural it's gonna look, and the easier it's gonna be to place detail. This is the most important thing from this video. If there's one thing you're gonna take away from this video, that's it, okay? Spend time on blockout, because look, if you look at this cabin, for example, right, you got this beautiful negative space here, and then you got this concentration of detail here, here, and on the top, right? And again, negative space. And this panel follows, again, with the angles, and this one follows with the angles as well. You see, it's all echoing the angles around. So when you follow this simple rule, the details gonna simply place themselves. And the more details you have in your design, the easier it is to place them. Because the last stage, you see, is decals, and I'll show you decals in Blender, because I have a Blender file. In fact, I want to show you two Blender files. Alright, so I want to show you the mech that's actually fully decaled. This is, the job's finished. So if I'm gonna go here and select all the decals, you'll see how many decals we have. Okay, there's quite a few decals, right? So they're not visible, because that's the whole point. They're not supposed to be vulgar, that's supposed to be closing, that's supposed to be guiding, that's supposed to be filling, right? So when you place decals and they're visible, you're fucked up, okay? So if you look at the design, they're really, really delicate, right? They just guide you through the design, just like these lights, okay? If you look from the side, you're gonna see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lights, and they guide you around the design. From the front, you got lights on the bottom and the top. They frame the whole cabin and they bring you inwards, just like the lights here. They bring you inwards. It's, there's a frame of lights and going deeper, and there are lights behind the seat and also on the bottom. So there are quite a few area lights, right? Like here, right? You see that? The lights that simply, light the interior. So you can see inside when you close this cabin, right? And then you got all these small details like here, the text details here, there, lights, again, vents, and then there's quite a few decals here inside as well. Text decals here and there, and they're all really tiny, like there are decals here, like they're really small, okay? And they all just simply guide you through the design. So even though there's so many decals, in here, you can't see them, right? You can barely see them, and that's the whole point. They're not supposed to be overpowering, they're supposed to be finishing, okay? And again, if your design is well placed and your blockout is well placed, you know where to put them. Like, for example, you want to maintain this beautiful negative space, you want to keep it clean. But here, for example, I got these two decals and this text to lead you across this line, going down all the way to the leg, through the light, going down through the text, through the piston, by the way, going down, and all those details were placed, and trim sheets too. We have trim sheets. There's a trim sheet on this element here. That's a trim sheet. It runs on the mesh, and there are decals here, and all of them plus the mats were placed with our add-on Materialworks, which was working fantastic. So you have everything in one, all the textures, all the details, and everything you need. So there you go, and that's the finished mech, and then obviously I placed it in the scene with some characters and rendered it. Now, one more thing I want to tell you that's really important. That's when you're designing something, you want to make it also functional, especially if it's a mechanical design like a mech or gun or whatever. So it needs to kind of make sense. It needs to be, someone needs to be able to animate it if they wanted to. This is going to be a massive plus because it's going to be not just mechanically functional, but also gonna look functional, because if something is functional, gonna look functional. Okay, so what I want to show you is how this mech actually folds going down, so the cabin can drop down. There's gonna be like a ladder which is not actually created yet, popping from this section here, dropping down, so the pilot can actually sort of easily walk into this mech and kind of jump in and take off. So this animation goes like this. The feet gonna be sliding forward. It's not modeled fully yet because you can see there's an issue here, but the whole idea is that the feet kind of slide forward, and the mech kind of folds down, and the cockpit opens, then the ladder pops out, and you can see again the silhouette looks good from an angle. Really looks a bit like a pissed off cat about to pounce. And then you're gonna have these two handles which gonna kind of pop out, and these pedals could simply rotate like this, right, and kind of move up on these pistons. So when you go up, you can hold on to the seat, and the mech is gonna simply roll itself back up, and then you can just sit on the seat and you're good to go, right? So that's how it works. Let me just undo the rotation there, and there you go, right? So that's the animation, and you see there's a perfect clearance between all the parts, between the bars. Nothing is clipping except for the piston, because pistons are not animated. There's no bones, there's no IK bones, so the pistons weren't animated, but the rest is. So all I would need to do basically is kind of redesign the feet a little bit. So create kind of like a railing system here that the feet gonna move on, create a ladder here, and I think the rest is peachy. It works perfectly fine. Okay, so anyway, that's it. And to sum it up, the blockout is gonna be the most essential thing you're gonna ever do. Okay, so spend a lot of time on blockout. In fact, on planning. You need to spend a lot of time on planning and thinking how you want to drive the design, what's going to be the theme, etc. And initially going to be difficult to start with something simple like a, I don't know, case, like a sci-fi chair, a bottle, a sci-fi comm device. Doesn't matter what it is. Just try to stay consistent with the design and think consciously where to place detail. Like, should you really place a detail over there or not? Doesn't make any sense, right? What does it do, etc., etc. How to place cuts on the model, right? How to flesh out panels and all that, okay? Now at the end, I want to show you one more example from our coaching member. If you need help fixing your hard surface modeling issues fast, with one-to-one support, weekly coaching calls, and full access to all of our Blender and Plasticity courses, then keep watching. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You cannot model anything without a tutorial. Your shading, bevels and booleans break, and no matter how many tutorials you watch, you are not improving. If this is you, then join our Hard Surface Academy. You get lifetime access to all of our courses, 6 months of private one-to-one support with Josh and I, plus weekly coaching calls where we fix your issues in real time. If you want personal guidance and modeling workflow that actually works, click the link below and learn more about the program. But anyway, one of our members, she's a professional 2D artist, and she's creating right now a 3D portfolio. And she created a blockout, very rough blockout of a kind of a massive, interesting, squarish vessel. And she ran into a very common issue where she just focused on one thing. So look at this. You see, everything is really blocky and very basic, could be changed in seconds. But this gear here, landing gear here, is really detailed, okay? So what she's done, she created a blockout and focused on one part and just kind of forget that everything else exists and started to modeling this one bit. And the issue with this one is really profound, because now you either need to undo this or you need to adjust the entire blockout and design to this one part, which is very limiting. And like I showed you in my example, I went through my mech and I was changing things multiple times, you know, the guns, the feet, the legs, right? And I was playing a lot with cuts, you know, with stuff when I was modeling, so things were changing rapidly. And if I did that, I would be kind of stuck with this, okay? So I was actually undoing things when I went a bit too far to recut the mech multiple times because I simply didn't like it, okay? But when you have so much detail on one element, it's going to be very difficult to fix that. So, you know, she learned a bit about mechanical design when she was doing this, but still, it was a bit of a wasted time because now she needs to undo this and start over, right? So don't jump into that rabbit hole. Not the best idea. Like I showed you in this video, do it gradually and you're going to end up at the blockout and eventually at the design that's really balanced and, you know, can be rendered from any angle at any stage, any pose, and it's gonna look fantastic, okay? So that's how you should be thinking. And don't worry about it, it's gonna take time, it's natural, you know, it's really not that easy to do that, but if things are challenging, it means you're growing. So try to do that, try to apply this into your work, and I guarantee you that it's gonna be improving, okay? That's it for the video, thanks for watching, and like I said, if you're interested in coaching, check out our private coaching link. It's called the Hard Surface Academy. The link is in the video description. And if you're brand new to Blender and you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, grab our Jumpstart course because that's where you should start. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.